Hey, it's live.
Dang it, are we live?
Yeah, we're live.
Ooh. Where is it?
Yeah, I can do that. Can you send a link to the stream itself?
It's on YouTube.
I can watch the chat.
Play World of Warcraft on the Discord streaming thing, which is why it's dog shit. Yeah.
I could do that. Just send a link to the
I
stream,
got
and I
you.
could have
I
it in a
got you.
bunch of
Hold up.
servers.
I'm gonna put it in the trash fire. Hold up. Wait, can I ping everyone in your server? Is that an option I have? I don't know if I can do that. Do you have a link? You might want to go put the link there. I just pinged everyone.
No.
Oh god, I'm being murdered.
I did not receive.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeehaw. Real yeehaw hours.
I am the yeest of the haws.
Yar.
I respect that.
There's a fucking storm outside.
Mix. Gosh darn it, I would have my camera running with something ridiculous, but software issue on my end.
So what are we going to be talking about today?
Yeah.
The gay international agenda.
I thought we weren't supposed to talk about that. I thought that was like a big secret.
Yeah.
Thought that was a conspiracy. I didn't realize we could talk about it.
I was gonna say I didn't get an agenda.
Yeah, well, we're talking about the public agenda, which involves continuing to exist and like also heterosexuals should not be such dicks all the time.
But that's like what the entire purpose of their existence is. What are they if they're not just complete assholes 90%, at least 90% of the time?
They can do other things.
What even are they?
They could have hobbies.
This is going to be serious.
We could give the straight people hobbies again.
Oh, I was gonna keep shit posting. Doom Jr.
Wait, am I on the top?
Gosh.
Yes. Dim, you go first.
Oh, I'm Doom JR6. Doom Jr. Hi.
Hello.
My fucking connection is dying over here.
I'm gonna pass on this. I'm like, this is my first time on the stream thing.
Oh, I'm already up. I thought I was at the last of the list. So, I was born a simple country boy in 1988. And then I got my ass beaten and and that's how I found out that I was bi and that my entire family would disown me if they found out. Except for my brothers, who are both awesome. My brothers are awesome people. And now that's how I plan to take over the world. Any questions?
What were all the middle bits?
I don't recall. I'm like, there was definitely no illegal activity.
Past them. Oh, I see.
There was no illegal activities during those middle bits.
You gotta read the manga to get to the little middle beats.
So I am a bi-Native American who is also, I'm like, the other half is Polish. So basically I come from two peoples that got nearly wiped out by, ravenous fanatics. Yay! I'm like, in a sense, I'm a two-time survivor. Though thankfully I didn't have to live through those experiences firsthand, with the exception of Catholic schools that tried to quote save the man, kill the Indian kind of mentality. I used to be left-handed, for instance. Used to. And then I learned how to use my right hand like the proper Christian I was. I kind of became agnostic as I grew up.
Oh, okay, yes. Well, I'm also known, also go by Monica. I use she, her, and they, them pronouns, and I am Mexican living in Mexico. I am non-binary trans femme. I am also pansexual, and not a lot of words. That's basically my context. Yes.
Hello. I'm Sigil, and I'm 24. I live in Nigeria, and I'm gonna say I'm queer because I live in Nigeria. The cops might be listening. I came to queer internationalism, or as I called it in the server, queer nationalism, but was quickly voted off the lefty island for liking that queer nationalism as a title. It's okay.
We are just the gay Nazis?
No.
No.
That's not what it means.
Nazi femboys trademark.
No.
But I just came to it from a perspective of Black nationalism and kind of how that was used to empower African nations. But I can understand how other people would be turned off by it. It's no big deal. Pete Buttigieg.
I feel like that's kind of an auto turnoff.
Yeah.
Just I feel like it should be assumed that that's a turnoff.
The problem is that there's Myo Yiannopoulos, so there are Yeah.
They
I
are.
know.
We know. We
it's-
don't talk about them though.
So it's just like between that and Americans' finickiness with names and stuff like that, it's just you gotta be really careful with like you just want to identify yourself as something like completely your own, but it's just like crap. There's all this weird baggage that it's like crap. I didn't mean that. Shit. Fuck.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say like
It's okay.
Was it really accidental though?
Is that the same Francis from the Let's Agree server?
Yes, it is.
Oh
What?
my god.
One time I accidentally punched a
business.
Nazi without knowing he was a Nazi.
damn.
So you did
nice.
good.
That was preemptive.
Yeah, I knew. Yeah, I did that on purpose. Yeah.
Like I was so guilty, and then it just like felt the wave of relief. Like, oh,
You're like,
I thought
Oh,
I
he
hit a
deserves it.
person.
Oh,
Thank
thank God, it's just a fascioid.
not in New Zealand. No,
What
Kiwi
does any of this dialect even mean?
Yeah, Kiwi bird. Oh, dude, cockapoo. Let me look that up. That sounds fun too.
Oh, the cockapoo is a
Isn't that-
lovely, big parrot that is so big it can't fly. It looks like an orange, like beanie baby of a parrot.
Doesn't just scream too. It screams like "eat me," literally, like almost.
No, it does make loud noises, but it's just like I'm here and I'm happy, and it's just like because it grew up in an island without predators that would go after a bird that big. It's like I don't have to give a shit, and then it's just like, oh shit, you have dogs.
Oh, what?
Jesus, man, that's terrible.
God, I hate humans. Why?
Yes, that is
Yeah.
I. Although online people tend to call me Fen, and that's okay with me. But yeah. My thing is I don't actually really know what the fuck I am. Sexuality wise. Like I'd probably fuck a dude. I don't know. I'm probably. I don't know if I'd date a dude. Maybe. I don't know. I'm just very confused. I have no answers. Although I like philosophy, and that's my thing. I am from the Midwest. Yes, I am from Illinois.
Oh my god, is this your first interaction with culture?
No, hey, I have the internet. I am a nerd, and I have the internet. This is not my first interaction with culture.
So comic
Chicago.
books
I live in the suburbs. So I did not have any interaction with culture for most of my life until I was like 12. When I found the internet and started making friends on the internet.
Okay, that's what I mean is that that's the same story I kind of went up with, is that it wasn't until I had access to the internet that I even knew that being gay was a thing that existed. Well, see, when I was growing up, all I heard was gay is bad. So I
Yeah.
was like, So that is a very negative thing. So it's just like, because I was bi, I was like, oh, I'd imagine kissing girls or I'd imagine kissing boys. And then I'd be like, oh, that's a weird thought. But because I imagined kissing girls, I was like, oh, I must be straight. So it's just like I kind of repressed. Yeah. So I was just like, I'm straight. And then like I got access to the internet and it's like, oh, wait. Oh.
Oh god. Oh god, oh fuck.
The internet turned me gay.
Your old uncle was right. Free memes?
Psychosilibin.
Oh, it's my turn now.
Who
Is
this
it?
is?
I can
Yeah.
say psychosilibin mushrooms, but I can't say his name.
Psychosilibin? Oh wait, psychopsilocybin?
Yeah.
Oh yes, where?
No, it's
Psychosilibin.
Psychosilibin 3030.
Dude, you gotta change your name now. At least change the nickname in one of the servers to Psychosilibin.
How the fuck do I spell that?
Actually, make it your custom status. If you don't, I will.
Oh god, psychosilibin. That would be just
No,
like
vibing, like vibing,
Oh my
I know,
like we
but just
vibing.
like
Don't ruin it.
No, just imagine if Biden was like on mushrooms
I don't want to
all
imagine
the
that.
time.
I don't want to
Actually,
imagine
that would explain his performance quite a bit.
No, I'm just saying the way he is now is ways normally, and then
No.
he takes mushrooms, and then he's like, "Oh wait, people actually matter, and I should care about them." And
Oh
then
my
he's
God.
just like, he becomes a chill dude that actually cares about people for once. And then he's like, "No, I'm gonna drop out of the election because I'm actually a corporate shill that shouldn't be in office."
I go ahead.
Oh, you're talking. Yeah. What question was I answering? Oh, sexuality. I have no idea. My mind's just ugh. And quick backstory of my life. I grew up in a really crappy neighborhood, and I live in a pretty culturally diverse place. I am like this AC shade of
I
white.
am. So then, me and free memes are the token white people here now.
Thank you. We will oppress you now.
Well, no, I'm white
Aw,
as well.
damn
but
it.
I mean,
I knew it was gonna happen. This is fine.
It means that you are the Frodo and Sam of our fellowship, and you are
okay.
casting the ring of racism into the fires for us.
Oh, okay.
You
I'm
have
good
my
with that.
axe.
yeah, I am, but I'm Irish
Yeah.
as well.
This is weird.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I legit grew up in the suburbs with a conservative Christian family. It's the... Yeah, that's true.
Okay.
With the British.
Kind
Yes, they do, because
Yeah.
the famine was literally them exporting a bunch of food that the Irish people weren't allowed to buy or couldn't afford to buy, and then had to subsist on potatoes as because that was something cheap that could be grown on a small amount of land. So it was just, as more of the diet became more reliant on them, sudden disease wiped them out, and it was just like, god dang it, we could just get the grain from the grocery store, but we can't because we're Irish and we're broken because all the land belongs to the British, the English. Fuck those guys.
Those
Fucking
bloody
British people.
Saxons.
They
And also
literally
because-
put an armada to blockade aid to Ireland.
Isn't
Wow.
capitalism
British
sometimes
people.
just wonderful /s?
And also because of their occupation, that's pretty much the reason why I'm speaking English right now. And like, I don't really know how to speak Irish. I know bits of it, but it's not something I can really do.
They're trying to obliterate the language, and like they for years been doing this shit like that.
I mean, I'm pretty sure that like counts as, like that's like bordering on genocide. The like
Yes.
removing, yeah, maybe
Cultural
linguistic
erasure.
genocide. Like part of like, at least especially for like long-term plans of genocide, a big part of it is like removing and erasing parts of the culture, including language.
Yeah, that's what the Spaniards did to the codices.
Yeah.
It's what the Americans did to us.
Yeah. It's what the United States.
Yeah, it's what the British did to most of Africa and
Most
like,
of the world.
Yeah,
Most of the planet.
The UK.
Yeah.
That's rich.
Oh yeah.
We learned it from
that's
you,
literally
Daddy.
your clone, bruh.
Honestly. And not to mention, they're still pretty fucking racist. Still, like, fuck.
That's kind of like making fun of the French for doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Making fun of Americans over our racism is like
And
making fun of
imperialism.
making fun of other people's racism while making through with Brexit. That I'm like, there is no comparison. That is, I'm like, you are the supreme hypocrites.
Honestly, it's more like down talking racism while hanging a Confederate flag from your fucking porch. But we don't stand for that kind of racism around here.
We don't use the hard R around here. I'm like, as long as you use the soft R, it's okay.
Is it still racism if you hate all races?
No, it just becomes, at that point, it's just misanthropic. At that point, you can just be called a misanthrope. I mean, if you buy it,
No, it just means that you're a
If you- I
racist
mean-
that all other races can, manipulate for their own ends.
I feel like that's just sort of pessimistic about humans. I don't know why you gotta, like, bring specifically race into that. Yeah, the biggest red
This
flag is
sentence
always,
can't
I'm
end
racist,
well.
but, I'm sorry, it's like, I'm not racist, but...
Yeah.
Followed by the most
But at the
racist
end-
shit you've ever heard.
No, it's more like, it's more like just general, like, low-key racism, or it can just be, like, actual, just full-on super blatant, where it's like, I'm not racist, but 13%.
Things I overheard today in the voting line. I'm not racist, but I think that they should require the voter ID
Oh,
because the wrong people will vote.
The wrong people. Yeah, you mean
Hmm.
black people? Boomer.
Okay. Hi, Sigil here. Yeah, so basically queer internationalism, the idea, like I first came across it when I was just doing some Googling, and the Wikipedia says that it's the idea that queer people everywhere share a culture. They share language, they share like music, like they share a lot of things. And one thing we all have in common is that we are persecuted for the way we are. Like our history has been erased, we have been denied representation, and all around the world, you could go to prison for being gay, or not even just being gay, like advocating for queer people, like if you're trans in certain places, you like there's a very high chance you'll get like stoned to death. Like there's a lot of stuff that in a lot of ways is like a carryover from colonialism, and queer people are still living under that colonial rule, like here in Nigeria, where it's literally illegal to be gay. So if you're caught in the act of being gay, whatever that means, then you'll probably go to prison. So it's just the idea that we should all be fighting for each other, and we're not free until we're all free and we reclaim our erased narratives from history. Mm. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's sort of the main point. Is that
Christians came.
similar? You have. I feel like it. One of the things, I'm like you said, it's probably an oversimplification. Some of it did seem to get more cleared up as it went on.
Hello?
Hello?
Hold on. Sorry. So like with I feel like it very much needs to be held with intersectional theory, and it's obviously not going to be just colonialism that led to the discriminatory attitudes towards queer people. There are more things than that. There are factors colonialism is absolutely a factor, but there's also Christianization of Europe and other areas, which also happened by colonialism.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wasn't ancient Rome like
Not-
not caring about like sexuality or anything?
I mean, there's also the fact that as like power expands with as like civilizations and countries grow, the power tends to magnify in a way that leads to more stratification and social hierarchies, including discriminatory ones that lead to specifically queerphobia. So regardless if it was part of the culture or not at the time, it's very possible that if they continue to develop and on the path that they would have been on, that it's extremely possible that they would have come up with forms of discrimination similar to, if not the same as, queerphobia elsewhere. It's
Yeah,
just
but like
it's
at the
just a
same
it's a
time, it's like,
possibility.
yeah. But at the same time, it's like with, for example, like around the world, for example, if you think about how like there was definitely heteropatriarchy before colonialism in a lot of places, but like the colonial powers themselves were a heteropatriarchy.
Oh
But
yeah.
now they have, they have queer rights. Like they're the people that were able to develop because they were like literally they were just looking out for themselves. We didn't have any problems outside of that. But when like we were colonized all around the world, it stunted our growth. So now we constantly compare ourselves to the colonizers, and like it comes from a place of low self-esteem because it's like um a lot of people here feel like if I'm like we're not gay like the colonizers are, so that makes us better than them. Like they might be developed, but at least we don't do like weird shit like be gay.
I mean, hell, like in Greece, technically the entirety of them being gay came from patriarchal attitudes.
Mm-hmm.
You also have with the Native Americans, I'm like we had a lot of different kinds of cultures related around what we now would call queer communities. I'm like we had Two Spirit, we had people that were in gay relationships of various kinds, and then when Christianity came over, they were like, no, that's wrong, that's bad, that's terrible, and it ended up creating in a culture in the younger generation of the Native Americans in reservations to basically be very much bullies, but in the older brother sense, to basically like stamp out the weakness. That way, when you go out into the white community, none of that shows up. Where then, so it's just you get this various stages of abuse, but like some of it's supposed to be for positive, and the rest of it's just like abuse outside, like to the in the greater white community, like hey, you're not allowed to act out. And like you better be a quiet little Native American boy, and just go about whatever cheap job we give you or whatever.
Oh, right. Okay, wait. Sorry. Pass. Finish your point. An entire culture.
Yeah, I'd like.
The stream is loading and it hasn't like loaded anything for a while.
I was gonna say, can I talk about that? Like, on the side of that study, like I think.
So, I actually kind of wanted to mention one other thing that I forgot to mention beforehand, because something that TK mentioned specifically with the Native American cultures and how there were aspects of that, of like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say, in regards to like what that psychology experiment, is that like the problem with psychology, too, is that like a lot of it's conducted on like white Americans mostly, and so that study should be probably taken to like other cultures. I don't know.
So I think another sort of minor point that I sort of forgot to mention earlier when talking about the intersectionality that would be needed with the queer internationalism is one of the parts that Sigil gave in their explanation was that it was something that they said along the lines of it was like that they're all that there's a queer culture and that they all share in that culture. And I think that in the modern world that might have some amount of truth from it, just because of the internet and colonialism and how cultures and people have intermingled over the last several hundred years. But the thing is that like if we're bringing colonialism into this as well, that the views on queerness and the sort of type of queerness and attitudes towards it is still very specific from the various different cultures. And like there's literally there's thousands of cultures that were colonized that had aspects of queerness to them that have been erased. And I get that like specifically reviving the queer elements to them, but I feel like it's still very much an individual type thing where like between the individual cultures because they're still their own thing. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like you can have that solidarity with them without trying to create a totalizing queer superculture.
Yeah, it's not like, okay, sorry, you continue. Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, just adding to your point, I just want to think of it like how New Yorkers see themselves. They identify as New Yorkers, but there's all different kinds of people in New York. Like there's black people who have been there, who migrated during slavery. There's Dominicans, Mexicans, like Asians. Like there's different sections of New York, but they at the end of the day they all identify as New Yorkers. So it's kind of the same kind of thing. You know what I mean?
They can bond and have solidarity in that being of residing in the city
Yeah,
despite the pluralism and differences between them.
exactly. Yeah. And like we like the we tend to think of a lot of our experiences as like shared trauma and stuff like that, and that like we've been saying, like they erased our history. They told us that like they're trying to convince us that we don't exist basically. But also we have things like our artistic artistic output, like the way we shape gender basically. Like we have all of these things in common. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, that's something that I appreciate quite a great deal, is that acceptance of things without necessarily assimilation, like they have to act in this certain way, but rather they're different, and they have a different perspective, which can be valuable to us. They have different knowledge and wisdom than we possess, and that makes it
Yes.
incredibly valuable, rather than
Exactly.
this monolithic structure of ideas that is extremely limited and narrow. Rather, a bunch of different nodes and paths of ideas from people with very different experiences with identity and being, that all have very different perspectives.
I was gonna mention something kind of ironically funny, but also kind of sad in a way about like gay rights and stuff. Whose phone is that?
It was mine.
Ah, like you know how like most fascists like fetishize the Roman Empire. The Roman Empire was one of the most gay places on earth in terms of sexuality.
Yeah,
At
why
this
do you think they
time.
were making all that olive oil?
Until
Okay,
Jesus decided just to
Nice.
mess
Oh,
it up
man.
or something.
This is not necessarily gay, but it's just like something that they should keep in mind, because considering how completely timid they are about any kind of sexuality, this is going something where the Roman Empire had bathhouses, massive bathhouses, mini bathhouses. They'd have like almost competitions in terms of each other, who could have the grandest bathhouse, where hundreds of men would go around naked and scrub each other and discuss the politics of the day for hours on end. This was meant to be enjoyed.
Yeah, like I think it's important to note that the ideas we have about relationships are very constructed and like are very I don't want to say unnatural, because like what even is natural anyway, but it's very artificial the way we like interact with each other. What separates your best friend from being your spouse or whatever. Like it's all, yeah. And on that note, like queer people have always been around to take care of orphaned kids, basically. Like if your family is having issues, like in the past it would be like queer people are the ones that are going to take care of you, because typically they wouldn't be able to have kids on their own.
Are you does the term mushe sound familiar to you? Because it may be, you may have a different one in mind, but yes, there is okay, like the mushe people are um as you said, like somewhat of a third gender category, and indigenous groups, and or just the groups that are closer to um, indigenous communities. Because even though people closer to the city may identify within the boundaries of like trans feminine, transgender. It is very common for people in the Zapotecan communities to identify as mushe, which yes is a third gender distinct from being transgender. And yeah, that is like actually an identity that was preceded the Spanish colonization. And so yeah, and there are Mush people are an example, but there are many, or maybe even deities that had gender identities that stepped outside of the um, gender binary as we know it. So yeah, Mexico too, and I bet there are many, many, many other uh, places other than the ones we have mentioned here that yeah, that didn't constrain themselves within the gender binary, and those were actually imposed in colonization.
Yeah. Loki is gay as fuck.
Keep that.
And then he had that wolf baby that
Okay,
ate all the
Loki is
stars.
Jack Harkness levels of sexuality. Is basically if you are a sapient being of willing and able of giving consent, then hey, baby.
Honestly, Loki's my spirit animal.
Oh, that hurt me somewhere.
Oops.
And like the white person version of that is saying you stan him.
Fucking spirit animal.
Yeah.
He's my Patronus.
Yes. You
There's his
can like
friend.
make up
Beard
as
even
many
died
white
as
versions
Patronus.
as you want. Just lay off the spirit animal bit.
Dude, I'm gonna kill every.
We
fucking
stand
one.
Loki in this house then.
That works. See, like that's how you be culturally appropriate. It's just like, you unlike if you
This is just Zoomer shit.
you yeah,
Just be
unlike it's
culturally appropriate.
instead of
Put that
like
on a shirt.
trying to copy Cinco de Mayo, just be like, okay, just have a actually good party on Halloween or some shit like that. Do your own thing on like have fun on.
We did literally nothing on Halloween.
I have not.
What?
I think let me look at it.
No. What is this toothy boy?
I actually expected something scary, like you know what? He looked like a good boy, like.
Oh my Jesus! What?
That's horrifying. What?
It looks like it looks like a fossil of some kind.
Yeah.
No, the
That's-
one that I'm
I
looking
hate
at
that.
looks like some sort of like. Oh my god! It looks like somebody tried to pass it off as an alien head they recovered from a crash or some shit.
Oh
That is
god.
okay. Jesus Christ, son! Like, no wonder you white people believe in curses and legends so much. It's like you do this crazy shit to each other all the time.
Yeah. Or like
I'm pretty sure this stuff first started happening in like Ireland
or like
or
this.
around the area.
Oh.
like the jack-o'-lanterns.
I was like watching like a Native American theology convention thing, and there was this white girl, and she was like, I keep seeing like the eagle outside my house, like every time I drive. Does that mean anything? And then the guy's like looking at her, and he's like, oh, you're just gonna have to think about that. Bro. You just like, I was just like, he just did not want to deal with that. I was like, oh, yeah.
Yep.
Sorry.
Oh no.
Okay. Well, I'm like, are we going back to the original topic discussion or the discussion right before the turnips?
I don't know. What are common aspects of queer internationalism between?
Well, okay, so it started in New York in the 80s and late 80s, early 90s because of HIV and AIDS activism. So they handed out pamphlets, and I think it was 1990 Pride. And basically it was a manifesto of like how pissed off they were at straight people. Um, and they were basically like demanding, well, not demanding, yes, demanding, but they were demanding that like closeted queer people come out. Like if you're in a privileged position and you're queer, like you're a celebrity or something, like you should come out, give visibility to queer people, make it so that straight people can't ignore us. Like their whole thing was like they wanted to go naked in the streets because otherwise, the whole silence is death thing. Barely.
Better late than never.
Yeah.
And even
Same
then,
sex.
like a lot of the activism that like I know of is a more sort of assimilation based than any like really radical movements of accepting the difference and that these people have are different from you, and that's like actually a good thing.
Yeah.
Society should be pluralistic and not this giant monolith of that but now we allow the gays, but they have to be exactly like us still, otherwise we're going to medicalize you and call you and say that you have a bunch of these disorders.
Yeah.
Yes.
But like at the same time, like the whole gay marriage thing in America, like it was, I think, yeah, it was 2014 that it got legalized around the country, and that was what triggered the wave of um, anti-gay sentiment across the continent of Africa. So you saw in Uganda they had the death penalty for gay people, and they had tabloids literally outing gay people and endangering their lives. So when I say like queerness as a foreign policy issue, what I'm talking about is like when you have legislation like that, you have to factor in the notion, the idea that around the world we are targeted. We are, like you can't just think about yourself when it comes to that kind of thing.
Like,
Who won the last season of Drag Race? Yeah.
What? What?
So you say it was like a geek?
I have acted extremely gaily in this matter. In this manner. No, you're just faking it so that we think that you're gay. No, I'm doing it because I am.
That's,
What the fuck is that logic? It's the Goldilocks zone of gay.
If you're not Pete Buttigieg, we don't want you.
If you are Pete Buttigieg, we don't want you.
Well, no, I think I think the thing is that there's basically the people that acknowledge that he is gay and it's just like I don't care about that. He's just a dick and shit like that. And then
He's a corporate
there's
rat.
yeah, there's those people, which there's quite a few, and then there's the people that are like I'm not racist but homophobic. And
I'm
it's
not
just like
homophobic, but
they
these gay people be
basically
kind of whack.
they kind of confuse the whole thing by is that there's always a reason that this person is negative, and it just happens that they also are gay. So they muddy the water so much that it's just like, it makes it seem like there's some no true Scotsman sort of scenario, but for gay people, when in reality it's like a bunch of gay people and actual allies going like, yeah, we just want someone who's not a dick and also either supports gay people or is gay themselves. And like not too like unrealistic, but it's just like, no, it must be because of all this other shit. And it's like, yeah, it's because he's racist. It's because he's like been
He works for the
financially
CIA.
irresponsible repeatedly. It's because like he's such a snitch kind of person. It's because he's always been power hungry. It's because of basically the fact that he's gay is the like least shocking thing about him. It's just like you're just like look at his face and it's like, really, you're gay? I mean, you look like you don't give a shit about your appearance other than looking like you are preparing for an interview at a management position for a Kinko's or some shit like that.
Literally, he looks like his mom picked out his outfits every morning.
So he looks like Ben Shapiro?
You know what?
He looks like Ben Shapiro's gay uncle.
Oh my
Who's
God.
like who groomed him to be Ben
Oh,
Shapiro.
no. I thought that was going to go a
Twink
different
Shapiro?
direction for a second there.
No,
damn.
Ben Shapiro is like the Padawan who's still being reckless and like being obvious about all this shit, while like the master is like, no, you must be the Palpatine. Except he's not really knowledgeable or smart. It's just like,
Or cool
dude,
enough for
we've
us to
seen
have a Star Wars reference based around him.
yeah.
All play into each other.
What do you? Sorry, I was gonna make a joke like it. It's like, what do you mean that being poor also causes me to have issues with taking care of my children? What? I'm like, they don't. I'm like, those are two different things. How do they relate?
Sometimes.
Brain?
Yeah, fuck turfs.
Fuck turfs.
At first, I thought you said Turks, and I was like, what do the Turks have to do with anything?
Well, yeah, I was gonna say, well, didn't they hold like the Turks? Didn't they hold like a lot of
They've
like,
done plenty of terrible things. Yes.
yeah.
I'm like it's more of just like I figured there would be more leeway into talking about Turks, but turfs, yeah, fuck those people. I'm like, if anyone doesn't know, they're basically just people that.
Feminism with a dollop of fascism.
Oh, is it like a
Yep.
Trojan horse then, kind of thing?
No,
You know
like
what?
our
That's
version
not-
of the
why did it
Spanish
have to be
Inquisition. They
not
just
even-
keep popping
That's
up.
not even like entirely inaccurate because there's like many of them are white cis lesbians.
Yes, why did it have to be lesbian?
So calling them queer fascists is not even entirely inaccurate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, it costs a lot of money to do all those mental gymnastics around why you're not awful, but men are.
Yeah, a lot of mimosas, right?
Doing those mental.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh fuck! Hold up. So I'm in a server with it's basically like it's a people of color focused anarchist server, and someone posted a meme here. Hold on. Fuck. Where was it? Was it in here? Yeah. Yep. I'm gonna post it in the chat. I don't know if you guys will be able to like record it, but you will see it.
Oh,
This fucking ad.
Every month, but this month I'm blackity black black. That's right,
What?
Oh
King.
my god.
But
Wakanda forever.
y'all.
but the fucking kid is white. They couldn't even
And
get a
they
black
like
child
got
actor
the
for it.
whitest kind of white person too.
Yeah.
That is like everyone's like Durbin or like Caden, that was down the street that
Caden.
had like
No,
who had like all the cool toys and had like a million albums. Exactly.
I don't know. He looks like a Kyle to me.
I actually never did that. I just played with mud and water and shit.
I lived with my grandparents for a while, so I got to live in a suburban neighborhood, and I'm like, I try to be friends with all the rich kids just that way I could play with their cool shit. Like one of them even had a PlayStation. That was my introduction to video games.
That's what we call class infiltration.
Yeah, I'm like, I was watching Parasite, and I was like, cool, they're killing the game, man. I'm like, that guy is sweet.
I'm too broke to watch fucking movies. I'm sorry, guys.
And then they were halfway through, and they were making rookie mistakes. I was like, fuckers, no, that's not how you do it. No, you team up with the other guys. I'm like, you go like, hey man, we can take them for all they got.
I haven't seen it yet, but I want to.
Yeah, same. I'm always a year late to every movie. Yep.
Wait, you all pay for movies?
Y'all don't I mean, completely legally obtain them from the internet? Completely
Yeah, of course,
legally,
yeah.
obviously. Oh, I see, yes.
While
Very
getting
smart.
refills of popcorn.
I don't know about you guys, but I only watch Put Locker originals.
Ooh.
What if it... Okay,
You-
what
How do
if...
you get Neil Breen movies? Doesn't he have to mail them to you?
Just imagine if we lived in a world where every single mall shop had its own film studio.
Oh, there's that.
That would be awesome.
Neil Breen is the greatest director that has lived.
Period.
Neil
Well,
Breen
I
working
I don't know about
on
you guys, but the only thing that
Kung
I'll
Pao
watch is
chicken
fucking
joint.
Old Mall Cop.
They're
One
just
thing
a
I will say
cosmic
about-
body,
What-
no concept of like society. Yeah.
God, I
Oh,
wish I
I've
had
seen
no
them.
social concept of society.
I
I've seen
might have.
every
I
piece of
just
Neil
don't know. I know things mostly by titles.
Oh, which
yeah, that's
which
the one.
one?
I can't
Which one
remember
is
what
that?
it was
Because in
called.
every movie he kills bankers.
Is that Fight Club?
I appreciate that.
I think it's
Oh my God!
I think
Yes.
I think the title of the movie is called Fateful Findings, and they're
Yes.
Yeah.
Fateful
Yeah,
Findings.
and, like,
Double
he
Down.
wrecks.
I Am Here Now.
Ooh, I have actually seen that. It's
one thing I love
yeah.
about Neil Breen's. I think this was in Fateful Findings as well. Like he hacked the door of a Ferrari with a flip phone.
I
And to
remember
unlock
that.
it, he just got his flip
Oh
phone.
God. Yeah, but like he also had a satellite, so it's realistic.
Yes.
Yep.
Oh, Private Clown.
Yeah, and he was just like sitting out of the boot of his car with like 3 laptops,
Eating
like,
tuna from the can. It's so gross. Like, just imagine the smell of like a fucking 50-year-old man eating nothing but tuna in his hot car driving across the desert. Ew.
Oh, I wouldn't want to approach that car. Oh, the smell. Just imagining it hurts.
Ugh. Were we talking about something?
Shit. Okay. Jeez, I only got 32 out of 38. That's so lame. Sorry, I'm just doing my homework also. Well,
It's okay. I'm mobile gaming, so.
So,
I'm beating, as you
are we going to talk
probably
about how
can
we're
see,
going
I'm beating
to
the
take
shit out
over
of
shit?
bosses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
so
What if we don't take over shit and just destroy shit?
I'm down.
I was gonna say
Sure. Sure, I'm down for
Okay.
that.
So how about we steal shit in a way that allows us to take power, so that way we can create the kind of influence we need.
We don't even really need to take power as long as we can convince enough people that stealing is good and cool, and then we just steal things, and then like the whole thing just collapses. It's like, what do we do? It's like, what
Yeah.
do we do? These people
Why
are
would you
just
fucking
stealing
buy
things.
anything when you
Okay,
could steal
let's
everything?
give the giant monster a bunch of paper cuts instead of like attacking its Achilles tendon all at once. Our
Yes.
blades of paper. Yes, but I
Yes,
mean, I'm just
wow.
saying. I'm just saying that we could be
fucking
efficient
flay the
about
monster
this.
alive with paper. Just
I'm just
flay
saying-
it with paper.
I'm just saying,
Damn,
let's
I'm sorry.
finish this thing off within our generation, so that way our next generation doesn't have to deal with fucking capitalism anymore.
I mean, so like, people like pacifists can give paper cuts. Then people like the Greek group, Conspiracy Cells of Fire can riddle it with bullet holes. We
Or
just
you
need like
spray lemon all over the paper
yes,
cuts.
we
but I'm
need
like,
like
most of us are
pluralistic
in between
fucking-
that. Most of us
We
are in
need, like-
between.
yeah, we need like pluralistic and autonomous and extremely decentralized and autonomous different cells doing actions instead of just some weird mass movement bullshit.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like this is gonna sound very nerdy, but
Insurrectionary
I-
theory is
I-
great.
I kind what?
Oh,
Uh,
yes,
Ooh.
insurrectionary is erectionary.
It is erectionary.
Insurrectionary theory is very erectionary.
It erects a frothing ball.
It gives me a hate boner. I hate everything. I hate everything.
No, I mean, let's talk about this erection some more. What are we doing?
We've already.
I'm
Okay,
gonna use,
um,
I'm
what
gonna
was I
use that
gonna
as an
say?
analogy.
Sorry, I cut myself off because I was worrying I was going to get a little bit too dirty with that metaphor.
I did get too dirty with the metaphor. I'm gonna structure it more later.
Yeah, I think our plan should be more like, I feel like at this point, the analogy of the monster is apt because I'm gonna make some comic book references right now. Okay, so you know how okay, you might not know this, but there's there's the Avengers, right? But then they have different factions of the Avengers. There's the Hell's Kitchen Avengers, the DC, the Washington Avengers, the New York Avengers, but they all come together to form one. Like if there's a fucking threat from Galactus or whatever, a monster threatening to swallow the entire world, they all have to come together. That's how I kind of see like organizing and movement making when it comes to things like queer internationalism. So it's like we can be fragmented in the way we organize, because I think it's best for us, because if we're all just together, we're all just going to fight each other, because that's just how things go.
It's not even just about fighting each other. It's the fact that it just becomes a hell of a lot easier to fucking kill those movements. Like, as soon as you take out the singular figurehead or the central node of command, the whole thing just ends up collapsing and becoming inert and useless.
Yeah, exactly. And I think what we should be focusing on is things like curating things to secure our future as queer people, instead of just like trying to save to save like an already like dying society, kind of. So like getting safe houses and getting like community gardening, and just like things that will like guarantee our safety in the future, if that makes sense. Because with the coming climate catastrophe and the like wars and diseases, we are the ones that are going to be left behind the most. Queer people of color internationally will be the ones that will suffer hardest, because we're already the ones suffering hardest. So I think we should invest in that kind of thing.
Oh.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I agree, because oftentimes that is exactly what will happen. And that's like somewhat of a problem, because it exists, because those programs and stuff that are made by the system then exist solely to perpetuate the conditions which allow the system to exist to begin with.
Yeah.
And so, like, nothing fundamentally changes, and those people are going to be, for the time, safe, but they're not better off.
Yes.
Safe either. Yeah. And the fact that space in society and politics has not been taken over means it's on the outside, it's on the margins of society, and that allows for more radical ideas such as anarchism and such to move in for it. That we can use that to the advantage of more radical movements and help those people out. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes, and like a kind of like a common area that we could always like I don't know, like on the level of stealing, like I feel like we could steal a billionaire's private island or something. Just if we're talking full on fantasy. Yeah.
That's the thing, is that they won't notice it. In no way really affects them. That the value of it still is in their pocket, so to speak. So it's just like, that value, that power that that island entails still exists for them, even if they're not the ones living on it. And so it's like, does it really address the issue in any way?
Yeah.
I just remembered another thing too. Speaking of islands and also coming climate catastrophes, there is actually the the people that you least expect to be helpful actually were helpful for once with this situation. So allow me to tell a story. It all begins with the very infamous Ayn Rand.
Oh.
What?
Oh God, no.
No.
Did
So
I come into the
I-
wrong chat?
no, there are hold up. So the fucking Ayn Rand Institute or some shit like that. No. Someone who is like a Randian founded something called the Seasteading Institute, which, you know,
Yes.
which is,
Okay. I
yeah.
literally know about this, and
Yeah.
I've done so much research about it. Talk about it, please.
I was
Yeah,
gonna
so
ask you if you
so-
were referencing the Rand Corporation.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
seasteading. No, seasteading. But seasteading was basically originally made as this idea of creating artificial islands that would actually be tax havens for corporations to set up corporatocracies or alternative ways of living outside of the current status quo of things. To basically create these little artificial islands that can connect with each other, and and form like these little island communities which you can test out different ways of living. Yeah, Finn had to
Yeah,
leave
it was
for a while.
Monica.
Oh, bye, Finn.
Bye.
Yeah, for once the right libertarians actually did something semi-useful.
Yeah, except like
Inexplicably.
they're not even doing it in a way that would be useful, because
Yeah,
if you
but
go
I'm
to their
saying-
websites, if
Oh,
you go to their websites, it's like, all right, you want to join a seastead? Do you have like $2 million
Yeah,
and a
but,
business
like,
you want to start?
My point is that the idea of seasteading, we can use the plastic in the ocean. We can use.
All right.
Yeah, I know, but I'm
Yeah.
saying like the sort of popularization at least. But like we
And-
can use the plastic that is the plastic litter in the ocean to create these little
Yes!
artificial islands and set up little ANCOM fucking communes.
Oh
that
my
float
god, I
on the water.
literally think about this all the time, bro. I'm
Rap,
so happy you
not
brought it up.
cringe.
Can I get a moment? Because I'm like, this is actually related to my
Oh,
answer
yeah,
that I was
yeah,
going to give
yeah,
a while
you go.
ago. Yeah, I've been here for a while. It's just I'm like, there's not really moments to get a word in edgewise, it seems, without interrupting each other.
Yeah, sorry. Go. You have great ideas.
Earlier we were talking about like how to acquire like power and influence and stuff like that. My main thing is that right now there are people that are living and dying, you know, like refugees, and we need to be able to support them because there's this whole like thing of like, oh, the older generation is conservative. No, it's not that they're predominantly conservative. It's just that more conservatives tend to be more wealthy, and thus they live longer, so they stretch, the influence of it. And what we need to do is we need to make sure that, you know, people that realize this, you know, the terrible fates of capitalism as it is now, you know, with endless wars and constant fighting over resources and, you know, the rise of fascism, have them survive, you know, and be able to like give firsthand knowledge to the next generation. And part of how we do that is, you know, the way I believe that we can acquire power is by basically landfill mining and then using automated next generation, like, you know, manufacturing techniques like 3D printing and stuff like that to be able to make everything we need, including, like, imagine just a kind of almost a battleship that goes around scooping up plastic from the ocean, making polyps of seasteads that then go around picking up refugees and creating seasteading arcologies that help replenish the local species while supporting the life on the island.
That's fucking awesome. Can I say
Yeah,
that
it's
I've literally written fan fiction about that? Is that weird?
No, that's awesome, man. You go.
I've wanted to like that's. I don't know. It sounds cool anyway.
Well, it's
You
mostly
should,
just like
you should post some of that fan fiction.
it's
I
just
did. It's
that
Star Trek fan fiction. It's up on.
Oh.
I made a YouTube video about it. It's weird.
it's just that
You should make fan fiction with us.
the company that I work at, it outputs enough trash and recyclables that I could build enough homes for about 200 people a month out of that trash if I had today's current technology, like a reasonable budget for a small firm, or construction company making houses. But I could end up housing hundreds of people every month out of trash, which could be refugees. And it's just like this stuff exists now, and I talk about the far-flung stuff, but it's just like we have these things today, and it's just like we don't do it because it wouldn't be
Yeah, there's no
profitable.
profit motive. Yeah.
Not to mention, it's not even something that would necessarily require some sort of mass hierarchical institution or environmental damage, because those things are already there. You don't need to.
Yes.
You're not exploiting you're not directly exploiting countries and people by forcing them to mine for your materials. You're not
Exactly. And it's also
industrial hellscapes.
Yeah.
And it acts
And
as
it's
a form of
also-
storage.
Yes. And it's also what I really like about the idea is that it'll be like the first experiment of nation building that doesn't revolve around land grabbing and colonialism, and doesn't involve
and also hierarchy.
dumping large amounts of people out of their homelands, basically. So it's basically an entirely basically a new type of it's a new era of human development if we could pull something like that off.
Yeah, and
It'd be just like somebody pulling up to you and being like, "Hey, you need a place to live?" I got a house literally on this truck. Here, take it.
A big benefit to seasteading is the what is it? It's like the concept of exit.
The kinetic geography.
Yeah, because you can join with these like-minded people and live in this way, but if you ever want to live or experiment or do something differently, you can literally separate your own little seastead area and go out and join another one or create one. Yeah, and it's pretty easy because they can literally just connect with each other.
Pet troubles.
Right. Right.
Oh man.
Not to mention,
Homelessness
you
is
can
a
set
big
up
issue
like
in this country.
entirely like nomadic communities. I also really like the idea of nomadism, like not staying in one space and continuously traveling.
Yeah. Yes.
There's a very interesting concept from the philosophers Deleuze and Guattari of rhizomes, which is like complex and sort of naturally forming networks of different nodes and systems rather than what they compared it to aberrescent structures, which is sort of like a tree where it has branches that split off into like it sets up binaries basically, like, and it sets up hierarchy, whereas a rhizome is horizontal and splits off into every direction with no central point at all. It's very complicated.
Sure were.
I literally only understand this because I know people who have like college degrees in philosophy to explain this to me.
Oh man, I remember when I first did Venn diagrams in school. I like, sucked at them.
Yeah, it's kind of like on the same, well, not exactly the same thing, but kind of like what like feudal monarchies used to do when they'd marry like a prince and a princess to bring the kingdoms together. But instead of like signing someone's life away, it's just literally like you're gay and you're black, so you have the communities within you.
You get to, I mean, so that's like another thing with intersectionality as well. That makes it pretty interesting is the fact that like it's not just gay and black, it's gay black. Yeah. Like there's
Yeah.
specific challenges and stuff that arise from holding both identities that like not all black people experience and not all gay people experience, but rather specific forms of oppression and erasure that only gay black people will experience.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm. And so, and
Yeah.
also very much socioeconomics,
Geography.
linguistics, geography. and then all the intersection of those, like even psychology. There's like psychogeography and sociogeography and the political geography.
Nope.
No.
No.
Five, four, three, two, one.
Right. I mean, yeah, like both of those things are just very, very broad terms that label all sorts of different personality and physical traits that we can see within both of them from time to time. In which case, if you keep dividing it down, it just becomes meaningless. We're all our own person.
Wait a minute, I have a question. Isn't queer a slur?
I know
It depends. It depends on who's using it.
I know. Like,
It's been pretty thoroughly reclaimed though, as far as I'm aware.
Well, you know.
Yeah, but a lot of there's still a lot of people that don't like it. But I mean,
Yeah.
I think it's
Like,
a
if you-
generational thing because it was like it was never used as a slur towards me, or like I never knew anyone that saw it as a slur. So like
Yeah, I mean,
I-
like,
Well, you know, I know.
honestly, if you have a problem with the word, then like I won't use it or anything.
Yeah.
We don't have to use it, but it is a useful term because it's a much broader term.
There was like a whole slew of guys at my school that would like use it as an insult without a second thought because like
Yeah.
yeah. And they
I
also
thi-
use that F word as well quite liberally.
Oh yeah, I've heard that one a few times. I've said that one a few times. Ugh. Edgy teenager days.
Four, three, two, one.
Yeah. 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 Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. But like at the same time, like I get that and I understand it, and that is definitely useful. But at the same time, it's like because we live in such like a hegemonic society where language is like proliferated through like all sectors of it. Like nothing is sacred. Like Wendy's Twitter account will talk about how they're like bussy pops or whatever. But like,
And I just
but
say
like, that,
fucking hate that account.
but like at the
Also,
same time, yeah, just to finish the point, like we're using it, but that it's gonna give straight people like the boldness to use it. Yeah. You're right. Because like, why did
that
you say
actually
the N word anyway? And they
so
don't care.
the thing with linguistics also I think goes big with colonization, because especially with the fuck, what is it like? So are you all familiar with the idea of what I'm pretty sure it's called linguistic realism?
No.
I don't know if that's
I think
correct.
a
I don't know
little
if that's exactly if I don't know if that's the proper term, but I'm pretty sure that's right. So
bit. Sounds right.
linguistic realism is basically, if it's the right word that I'm using, is basically that there's like a strong and weak form of it. The strong form stating like that all of our thoughts, like how we perceive the world, are intrinsically linked to and limited with the words that we have to use to describe them. Because we think of things in terms of words, and when we describe them to people and to ourselves, we have a limited option of words to use. And so, like, a big part with colonization and erasure is removing those words from use and not letting those people and identities have words within the language that they're forced to use to have any sort of representation to describe what they have, so that
Yeah.
having these feelings basically and having this identity becomes incomprehensible because you don't have the words to describe it. They don't exist. That's like the weak form, is that it's just limited.
And like that very much described my early childhood, is that like, I didn't know what bi was. I didn't have these ideas of like what this kind of thing was, just that, anything remotely associated with it was considered bad. And so it's just like negative, like combined with like just not knowing anything. Yeah, it really leads to like,
I think that applies to like my childhood to an extent as well, because like for like until like sometime last year, I think I went through like the majority of that up to that point thinking that I was straight.
Yeah. That's that, like, it's compulsory heterosexuality where like you feel like everyone is straight by default, or you feel like you're straight by default, and like, thinking anything else is scary, so you just like, you're straight, until you aren't, basically.
Yeah. Or at least until you know the words to describe it.
Yes,
Because
yes.
and then like that's how you get that also can create like mental health problems, because like you feel something, but you can't comprehend it because it
Yeah.
doesn't exist for you in your mind.
Mhm.
And so it creates like this big cognitive dissonance, which can cause like anxiety and depression and type of deal. And then that gets
Yeah, and
medicalized, and
like,
then you're even more in a system's control. And
yeah, and like you think you're really, you think that there's something wrong with you because you're not experiencing like things the way that other people around you are experiencing it.
yeah, or how you think that you should be experiencing it, or it
Yeah.
just like feels wrong inside, and like that's not conducive to a healthy mentality.
Exactly.
It's all side note, it's also why I think that we should like not we should not be monolinguistic at all,
Well, they just
because
speak
like
one language.
yeah, we should not
Yeah, that's kind
no
of,
one should just speak one language, in my opinion.
that's kind of a point of guilt for me, because like I kind of want to know how to speak other languages, but I'm like fucking terrible at learning them.
Yeah, no, I get
Yes,
that.
I'm
It's
so
the same for
bad.
me. It's like But yeah,
Plus,
and that's like an aspect of colonization, like I was mentioning. Like because to keep around colonization and these power structures, they need to have control, and part of that control comes from the control of the language. Which, and by not allowing people to learn other languages or making it extremely difficult to get access to that kind of education, or any education really, then they literally control. They don't just control the narratives. They control the words which we use to describe the narrative. Yes,
that
yeah.
sounds like something I might have come across at some point. Yeah, because you're like omitting part of the information.
Yeah, it's making it passive. Like it's just a thing that happened. Yep.
It's like it's kind of like saying, oh, like 19 people died of a car bomb in such and such location in Northern Ireland, instead of saying 19 people died of a car bomb that like the IRA planted. Like you're leaving out who did it, basically.
Yeah, and
Or like the fact that it was killing. Because
Yeah.
like died is like a very, very passive term. Like, oh
yes.
man, this is a tragedy. Some people died. Oh. But yeah.
And I can think of like
Maybe.
one instance.
It's been going on for like 2 hours.
I can think of one instance.
People
at
have
least
lives.
where
So I've heard. Some people have lives, I've heard. I don't, but
Priscilla
vibin'.
I can think of like one instance at least where like the IRA planted a bomb like in a car with the intention to like take out some high-ranking unionist paramilitary guy, but instead they only got like a low-level member and like I don't really have the numbers in my head right now, but like the vast majority of the victims of that particular bombing were like both Catholics and Protestants. And like the unionist paramilitary that they killed was like just some low-rank goon. So like they didn't even fulfill their intentions. I don't know, like
Yeah.
yeah, which is why Fox News will go off about when some Nazi like does a terrorist act, it's like horrible tragedy. These people died in like this mass shooting.
The lone gunman.
Yeah, this lone gun. It sometimes won't even be like lone gunman. It's just like there was a shooting today and it was very tragic and some people died. But then when
I'm
like
not gonna say
a
anything
Muslim,
about it,
then when like a singular Muslim person holds up a store at gunpoint or some shit, it's like this Muslim invader fucking and destroying the American economy by holding up a
We
gas
have
station.
to call it
Yeah,
terrorism. You gotta say the word terrorism.
This Muslim invader terrorist held up a convenience store at gunpoint, and the American economy is going to collapse from this.
Close your borders, change all your passwords, protect your kids.
And for the love
Secure a
of God,
future.
Santa Claus was white. Yeah.
Is it actually a Turkish belief?
Who?
No, I heard
No,
that as
I
well.
thought I heard Charlize too.
I thought I heard police.
Oh shit, the cops are coming.
Uh-oh.
We've revealed too much.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's just like my life. Just shit talk absolutely everything. I will occasionally say to people, everything is shit, everything is bad, we will all die.
Yep.
It's not entirely true, it's extremely reductionist, but, you know, it's venti.
Oh, you beat me to it.
I hate everything, and we're all gonna die.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Exactly. Oh my god.
Not to mention issues of like the circumcision in America, where that's still going on. Like that's just framed as like a common medical practice and actually for the benefit of the child, when it's literally more mutilatory than any. But then like they'll frame like gender confirmation surgery as like mutilation, but then like be totally fine with male circumcision, which is more of genital mutilation than gender confirmation surgery could ever be.
I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna like any sort of like I don't know. Just the thought of having sharp objects near my groin, shall we say, it just makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah, that's. I feel like that's a reasonable response.
Yeah. And that's like the whole like fear mongering about trans kids too is obviously in bad faith, because it ignores the fact that you don't medically transition until you hit puberty. Like the only transitioning, yeah, puberty blockers and hormones, and like the only transitioning you do as like an actual child is when you like wear clothes that make you feel comfortable in yourself, and it's
even
like
then,
it's.
Even then, it's a lot more comfortable. I have a lot of friends in high school who are trans, and like you can't even get the hormone blockers without like seeing a psychologist several times to get it confirmed that you have gender non-conforming, whatever it's called.
Yeah,
that kind of.
It can be classified as dysphoria when you're like 9, so it's just, or before 18, I think, or 16. So it's just gender non-confirmation, non-conforming disorder, I think it is. I don't know why it's called a disorder, or if it's even called a disorder now, but it's a thing. But you have to get diagnosed with gender non-conforming whatever to even get the puberty blockers, and then and then people leave out that doesn't really do anything besides stop puberty for a while, and if the child decides that like they are actually comfortable with being what they were assigned at birth, then like all that it means is that they just stop taking the puberty blockers, and then puberty comes a little bit late for them.
Yeah, that thing you mentioned, like seeing the psychologists to like get it diagnosed, that kind of goes back to the whole having to prove that you are X type thing
Yeah,
that was mentioned.
which is a big issue, and then that gets into like the whole pathologization and medicalization of identity, which was fought against within like the 1960s to 80s like anti-psychiatry movements, which I very much appreciate.
Exactly. And like that's what annoys me about things like trans meds. Like you're doing the straight, like the cis-hets work for them when you insist that your identity is hinged upon like patronizing the pharmaceutical industry and like giving them reason to call us sick and suggest that we need a cure to what, you know, is literally in our nature.
Yeah, it's a totally natural phenomenon. It's just identity. Well,
Yeah, they believe that there's a biological explanation, but the biological explanation means that, you know, you're horribly
It's
sick,
gender
and the
essentialist.
only way, the only way you can be trans is if you have
If you
like
transition.
this
If you-
kind of gender dysphoria, and you could never ever like. They don't believe in the spectrum of gender. They are binary.
Yeah, they believe in a gender binary, and that to be trans you have to have dysphoria, and that you have to transition.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's almost like you have to like I don't know, like suffer or feel pain, or like it has to make you feel bad in some way.
Yeah.
And honestly, like. Yeah.
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 Yeah, it's like it comes from a place of insecurity where it's like you feel like you have to prove yourself constantly, and anyone who doesn't feel like they have to prove themselves constantly is obviously a personal slight against you. So
yeah, I had one of my friends who was like he was a trans dude who was like he had like really bad dysphoria too. Like he would literally get like when he got this dysphoric, he would get like manic episodes and like panic attacks over it. Like it was, and like he almost like took a knife and tried to flay himself because the dysphoria was just that bad. It was really bad for him. So I can get like the sort of I can get that like thinking that you need to have dysphoria to take on that identity, like just because of the sheer amount of pain and suffering that you've experienced.
Hi, Boomer.
Yeah.
Or Doomer, sorry.
Like, I can understand the reaction, but it's still like a shit opinion to hold ultimately. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like with the I don't think I saw like the conversation you had with the fascists at all. I think it got like purged or something. But like in my so I'm gonna do some personal storytelling here. So when my mom divorced my dad, he ended up getting into like really fashy red pill shit. And like I ended up going on to the red pill fucking subreddit to try and understand some of the ideology some more. And like there was this one story by this dude's personal story with something on how he got like sort of red pilled, which honestly like fuck, it was like legit like really depressing. Like it's like at that point like I realized that like some of these people aren't just like these Nazi supervillain types, that they're more like tragic villains, like people who experience some sort of trauma or tragedy and then like sort of went off the rails or got like really shitty advice and then got on this like dark and dumb as fuck path.
Yeah, like it's proven that like Nazis literally target those people. Like they mix in their like hateful rhetoric with self help stuff. So if you're looking for how to better yourself, you just also come across all this like fucking red pill
Nazi
shit.
racist shit, yeah. Like,
Yeah.
so, like, the dude's story was, like, he was, like, deeply in love with this woman, and he ended up, like, living with her for a while, but then she, like, went out and cheated on him or something, and got pregnant with with this dude's child, and then moved out and far, far away, and, like, fuck, if I was, like, deeply in love with someone, and then they just, like, went out and got pregnant with some other dude's child, and then left you forever, like, fuck, that's, like, really fucking depressing. And then he got the shit advice from his grandpa that's like, never trust women ever, they're all lying, conniving thieves. Yeah,
Yeah.
that too.
Hmm.
No.
Mm.
Oh.
Oof.
That sucks.
God. Right. I maybe it's more like a I don't even think it's necessarily angry as much as like vulnerable and forced into like a sort of fight or flight situation, and these people end up with the fight reaction.
Yeah, I think that's like. I think that's like a reason people join groups like the IRA, because they have some of that like vulnerability or anger in them, especially up in the north.
It's like backing something into a corner, and then it either just sort of shrivels up or fucking beats the hell out of you. Yeah. Yeah. But it's an understandable psychological reaction, even if it's not okay.
Mhm. Bye, free memes.
See ya.
You're totally appreciated. Mhm. Bye.
Oh no, I'm just saying bye to free memes.
Oh, I thought you were also leaving.
I might have to leave like in another like 20 minutes or a half hour or so.
Yeah, okay. I think I'll have to leave too in another half hour.
So we're gonna have to wrap it up here.
Sleep deprivation gang.
Right. Honestly, there's a specific sort of philosophical viewpoint that I've been wondering about lately, which is whether or not people actually change. Well, see, that's the thing. It's not even that,
Yeah.
but like what I'm talking about is like, do people actually change or do people stay the same? But all that changes is how they view a situation, where the person themselves has not changed at all, but how they view the certain situations and their perspective on things has changed, which causes them to react slightly differently. But it's the same. It's the same sort of reaction, but directed in a different way now because the perception has changed.
I mean, I feel like people can change in both ways, right? Like you can, like it could just be the way you perceive things. Like if you've always wanted justice, but you thought the way to get that justice was to like, be a Nazi, or and then you change to wanting justice and now you're an anarchist. Or you could like fundamentally change like the way you view things entirely,
Right. Or even right. I mean, personally, I lean more on the side of that people can change, that we can, that like completely, like there's no essential anything to us.
Mm-hmm.
Like I take the more like sort of post-structuralist type of ontologies I've seen of where identity and being is not a static thing, where it's like you are this specific thing, but rather it's an action and an extremely fluid thing where it's constantly changing. Identity arises by action and movement, sort of like flowing through the world.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hold on. So
Yeah.
I'm just gonna pull up a specific thing real quick. Hold up. So
Yeah, I like to
you
think
got
of
that
myself as a writer.
sadomasochism gene.
Like most science fiction writers, I know nothing about science.
there's a few like pretty scientifically accurate science fiction things.
Yeah, like that's what I want to like try and like I make sure that like I don't know, don't really focus on like the science aspects. I'm not really good at that. But like I try
That's
to make
fair.
it at least not egregiously wrong, if you will.
That's why I stick to fantasy. I want to be able to break the laws of physics with impunity.
Yeah. You
It is amazing what you can do
Yours,
within the laws of
Einstein.
physics, but I still like to just fucking abandon them because I'm an anarchist and I will follow no laws, not even the laws of physics.
Then just
exactly.
break shit.
You just write like the laws of physics. Well, have you heard of the secret laws of physics?
Honestly,
Well,
I
yeah,
don't
honest,
know.
like
Just make it
legit.
up.
That's why I like superpower stories with superheroes and shit like that, and people with superpowers, because like it's within the current like some often modern world, but it's with people who just like break the laws of physics on a day-to-day basis, and like what's more fucking metal and rebel than that? Just like why just break mortal laws in place by the state when you can break the laws set in place by the universe itself?
Yeah, fuck you, God. I'm not
Fuck
gonna
you,
be
God.
straight
I'm-
or apply to your
Fuck you, God. Gravity is
essential
mine to
laws of
command.
nature.
Fuck you, God. Ooh, yeah.
When we started, baby.
Just gravity is mine to control, God. Fuck you. I will be gay, and I will be gay, and I will reverse the flow of gravity within a 15-foot radius. Shh.
Magnets are gay.
No, I
Confirmed.
want to do it with my hands. I want to do it with my hands and my mind. I want to raise my hands to the sky.
Yeah, boy.
I want to raise my hands into the sky and have everything start floating around me as I negate gravity within a 50-foot radius.
Some real Magneto energy.
Gravimito.
Which
Oh, is that the
Ooh.
one? Is that like, I am not okay with this? Yeah, I've seen that. Well, I've not seen it, but like, I'm aware. What
Oh,
one is
Stranger
that?
Things.
Oh, okay. I don't really watch shows, like except like a few that I like.
Yeah. You know, the 80s, that show that everyone
one
liked.
80s show that's on Netflix. The one with the weird eldritch abominations from the shadowy dimension thingy. Also, I just really like eldritch horror. I'm not gonna lie. I want to just mention that. I love Lovecraftian horror. Was so racist and terrible.
Yeah,
Oh my
was-
god. He
he was
literally
a-
named his cat the N-word.
Yeah, I mean, I love Lovecraftian horror, but I hate Lovecraft.
Yes.
Yeah, like the guy was a scumbag even by the standard time.
Yeah, I'll take Cthulhu without the racism, please.
Yes.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Or like, try
Loot
to
his corpse. Loot his
Loot
corpse.
his corpse. Loot his corpse. Honestly, like, yeah, can we get some, like, can someone write, like, some gay stories in the style of Lovecraft, but, like, and then just, like, loot his body
That's
of
called
work?
Welcome to Night Vale, boy.
I can probably try doing that, but I can't promise good quality.
I really like overly sarcastic production on productions on video on Lovecraft. It was very good. It was very amusing. I've watched that like 3 times. It's
Too delicate of a constitution for maths.
yeah. I did not see that, but I remember posting that one meme where it's like, it says, "Puny mortals, I'm trying to escape relay, but I'm dummy thick, and the resonant clap of my ass cheeks keeps driving my wretched slaves to new heights of madness."
Yeah.
I love that so much. Mm. Where did you post it? Well, okay, let me. Hold
Walked
on.
right into
I'm
that
scrolling
one.
up. I want to find this. I'm not finding it. You can, if you have like a link, send it to me, please. God, I love this.
I still can't really get over the fact that like India has a tank and there's like an ammunition that was
Oh wait,
designed,
I see it now. Okay.
and it's called
Essays: Cthulhu's polymorphous perversity. The sexual attraction of the Lovecraftian universe. God.
Penetration Come Blast.
Guys, I think I might have to head out soon. So
That's fine.
Alright.
I just want to leave you with I made like an actual like I made a flow chart of how we might actually organize to like create things like a gay ass seastead with kinetic geography. Like I made a video about it where I also link to fan fiction, and I'll post all those things in the chat, and yeah, talk to you guys
I
later.
feel like. Thank you. And I'll see you. But I feel like Cthulhu Erotica is a good place to end it.
All right. Yeah,
This
the
is the place to
ultimate.
end it. We started
The
out with
ultimate
queer
conclusion.
internationalism, and we've ended with Cthulhu Erotica. This was a productive conversation.
Mm-hmm.
I'll see you guys.
All right, later. Bye.